Hey guys, welcome back to episode 23 of 5 Drinks Through Midnight, Quarantine Edition. Today we're talking to Dave Bob, ambassador of Lexington Brewing and Distilling Company. Before we do, like and subscribe. It really help us out. Dave, thank you so much for joining us. 5 Drinks Through Midnight, 5 questions, 5 drinks, midnight, whatever comes first. Thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. It's good to be here. Glad
Excellent.
to have a drink with a new friend.
Excellent. Same. I'm looking forward to this. This is going to be good. So again, yes, what's our first drink?
Our first drink, we're going single barrel. I mistakenly grabbed the wrong single barrel. I believe you have the Town Branch bourbon.
Yes.
I have the Town Branch single barrel single malt whiskey.
Okay.
So they're both single barrels, but I grabbed the wrong bottle. Yeah. You know, with these single barrels, we always have the glass cap, so they're always a little bit hard to get off. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour mine.
Excellent. Yeah, for mine. Right there.
There you go. With life that we're living at these days, you especially know being in Brooklyn, there's a lot of things that we can't do that we would normally do, and so many things that we miss doing. I miss wearing my aprons and slinging cocktails.
Yeah.
So I'm like, if I'm drinking 5 drinks to midnight with Tim, I'm throwing on the bow tie, I'm putting on one of the aprons. We're gonna do this right.
Excellent. Well, cheers to that, my friend. So here we go. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, that's so good. Oh, I really do love this stuff, and people need to know more about this, because this is it's such a Connor from Pierce Lion, like, he got me hooked on it, and like ever since then it's just
yeah, we love the partnership that we have between America and Ireland. With our founder, Dr. Pierce Lyons, always been that heritage and connection between Ireland and America, not just because he was born and raised in Ireland, but because of the brewing and distilling, it's always kind of blended. And it makes sense for so many ways. There's so much Irish heritage in Kentucky. And now that we have our distillery and brewery in Dublin and down south in Ireland, it's amazing that we're able to collaborate and learn from each other. Connor's amazing.
Yeah. No, and I think that's great, especially too, like the whole Dr. Lyons story of how he brought the stills over from Kentucky and how they had to get them changed and everything, that they could be able to use those in Ireland, which is great. But let's talk about you. So I guess our first question again is just a little bit of an origin story, but how does a guy that was born in Florida, raised in Vermont, end up in the industry, but more importantly, end up in the industry in China? Yeah,
and not just in China, but during the whole period when it was, it was really no kind of bar life creativity, and just kind of seeing all that evolve in the years that I was there. But yeah, born in Florida, moved to Vermont, for preschool, and grew up in Vermont my whole life. Had a real inkling to get out, and not just, get out of, Vermont, but just really get out, and decided, China, that's, random and completely opposite. And that was back in, I want to say 2006, mid 2006. went out there for a year. It was just kind of, let's go. We'll do it for a year. We'll see how that is. I've never traveled abroad really. I spent some time in New York, Brooklyn, and Lower East Side. I spent a little bit of time in Montreal. Yeah, China was a whirlwind.
Were you a bartender like before, or were you just more like, hey, that's just the job that I kind of fell into, and that's how it happened? Or
I always was interested in bars and bartending. I've had a job ever since I was 11 years old. I was a paper boy, and I would always deliver to the Elks Club near downtown, and they'd buzz me in, and it felt like I was going into like some mafia den. And every day I delivered the paper, you'd have your kind of line of regulars, kind of like, like the Simpsons at Moe's. Not as bad. And he'd make me a Shirley Temple with 2 or 3 cherries every time. And I just thought it was so cool.
That's awesome.
And got my first job bartending at this divey motel off the interstate across the street from a hospital. And, basically it was, popping, Bud Heavies and making, Jack and Coke, and occasionally, opening up a bottle of bourbon or rye. And the clientele was mostly guys who had so many Deweys, they would either walk or snowmobile to this motel bar. And that was it, because it was the closest place they could, get a drink.
Yep.
Within walking distance, or during the winter, if they had a snowmobile, they would snowmobile over. So that was my first experience bartending. And then slowly, with more experience and bartended at more places and learned from a lot more people. But China was only the second bar that I worked at. And basically moved to China, moved to this very small town called Zhongdian in Shandong, China. Population at that time was maybe like 1 million or so, which is very small. This is 2006, pre-Beijing Olympics. They just got KFC. They had 2 expat bars. The expat community was probably maybe around like 50 people, maybe a little bit more, because there were some other university students spread out. But I'd say like a good 50 that you could see on a weekly basis. Anywhere from teachers to university students to random businessmen. And one of the bars was this music bar, and they would get too many foreigners in sometimes. And it would be hard for them to communicate, with certain drinks, because they're popping, Qingdao beer and, making a rum and Coke. And outside of that, you have foreigners that want something else.
Sure.
And they would call me, and I'd work over there part-time, and then ended up working part-time at another bar. So that's kind of how it got started for China.
Okay. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's one of the most like amazing kind of origin stories of like just being like, I'm gonna go to China and bartend. Like, I think that is just one of the coolest kind of just being like, I'm a firm believer of like just going out and like just experiencing the world and like expanding that bubble as much as possible. And
one of my favorite parts about living and traveling abroad is being able to connect and laugh and have a good time with somebody else or a group of people while speaking another language. That was always the kind of the cross line that you would cross, when you're able to speak enough Chinese to have your personality into it, make people laugh. When I could make people laugh in Chinese or Russian, I'm like, this is so much fun.
Yeah, you're golden now. Like that's the.
Not to say in my Chinese is definitely not fluent. It was always functional. I never studied. I think I studied one time for 20 minutes. It was just everything that I picked up, whatever I was interested in or things that I needed to get done, I learned how to say that. It would always go so far. But as far as day-to-day things, and I didn't need any translation or anything like that. But everybody has their level.
Yeah.
Awesome. My wife was my crutch. We met my third week in China and started dating probably a month after that, and she was studying Chinese, reading, writing. So I just made her do everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm a bartender in China in the beginning, not obviously later on, because those first 2 years, I was asked to bartend to deal with foreigners, so why would I, speak Chinese?
Now, and then too, like, how does jumping from bartending in China and then you joined Lexington in China, right? Is that true? Or
yeah, basically, I was hired while in Beijing. So I was at that time, fast forward, I was moved to Beijing. And again, this is still early on for the Beijing nightlife as far as, Western foreign influence, bars, restaurants, and things like that. This was still quite early on. And there were some, but not, what we like mixology and speakeasies and bespoken and things like that. It was still a little bit early on. It was kind of right on that cusp. And, not on the cusp. When I started going there, it was. Anyways, I was just a regular at a neighborhood bar. One night, slowly became very good friends with the owner and one of the head bartenders, both foreigners, one Brit, one American. And one night they, closed the gate. We continue our session with the bar being closed. I was getting, a little bit, intoxicated. I had my motorcycle outside. I'd been riding motorcycles, for a while. And I'm like, hey, I want to keep this night going, but I can't leave my motorcycle out there. It's going to get stolen. I don't have a lock. And the owner's like, you can park it in here. And, there's about 8 steps up there. I'm like, I can drive it inside the bar? It's like, yeah, we'll push it up. I'm like, no need to push it up. I will drive this motorcycle up the stairs inside of your bar. This is like a bucket list I never knew I wanted. So, that's what I did. I literally drove it up the stairs into the bar like Evel Knievel. And the owner was so impressed, and he knew I think I told him I bartended before. And he's like, hey, do you want to work here? I'm like, yeah, I want to work here. I'm here all the time. You might as well pay me.
Right. Great things.
So that kind of started my third venue in China, but in Beijing. And it was, it was a much bigger change where, Beijing was just starting to get craft beer a little bit. The cocktail menu was, decent. And the owner was great. I mean, this is a trained culinary chef, 5-star restaurant background. So he was kind of my first mentor in starting to take bartending seriously.
Awesome. Well, I think that's a fabulous origin story. So cheers to that.
Cheers. Yeah.
And then on to drink 2.
So drink 2, and this is no real order, but I think, with that kind of spice that we're getting from the single barrel, which I think we both have to admit, no matter if it's our single barrel, single malt or single barrel bourbon, they're both surprisingly smooth and
totally.
easy to drink.
Absolutely.
I think that's a compliment that we always get from anyone, the industry or fans and whatnot, is it's so smooth. So I want to move on to our pumpkin bourbon barrel ale. All right. Oh, you got the whole 4-pack. You're gonna have to share that with some pumpkin lovers out there.
There we go.
This is what I love about this beer is you're either gonna love it or hate it instantly when you look at it, because you either love everything pumpkin or you don't. I grew up in Vermont, so
got to be a lover of the beer. I'm going to let you know, I'm not a big beer fan, so.
Oh, this is perfect. I love people who aren't big beer fans.
And again, blaming Connor, but when he gave me your bourbon barrel ale,
yeah,
because again, everybody that you tell people you don't like beer, and then they're like, "Oh, you just haven't found the right beer yet." And I was like, "Yeah, okay," but it took, like, again, if you go, like, I'm 47. It took 47 years old to get to the point of finding a right beer for me to actually go, "Oh, I like that." And the only reason why I probably really liked it is because it tasted like whiskey. So yeah, so it was.
When you're making a beer that's aged in freshly decanted first generation bourbon barrels that are still wet, it's gonna make a big difference. Yeah. But that would be, we'll see. This one's a little bit different. So first, let's pour. Yeah.
All right. Okay, pour.
So we're brewing this. It's our ale, which is a hybrid craft brew. We use Irish red malt and English pale ale hops, kind of taking two beer styles, putting them together. And then since we started this seasonal, we're using the same local Kentucky farm that makes pumpkin butter. And we use that pumpkin butter to brew with the ale. And then we barrel age it for 6 weeks or longer in some of the freshest bourbon barrels out of Kentucky.
Awesome. Is that how they get the pumpkin flavor into the beer?
That's how you're getting that kind of pumpkin spice.
The butter? It comes from the butter? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's question 2. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, on to question 2.
Let's do it.
So you won Best Bar Personality while you were working in China. You probably had to sit and talk to locals quite a bit, which means that there's probably a lot of drinking going on back and forth. And like you said, if you could talk to somebody in their own language and drink with them and make them laugh, it's a great thing. And I assume that, again, the party never really stops in China. You just keep going and going until you can't really walk anymore. What is your favorite hangover food?
Ooh. Favorite hangover food?
Or cure. Even to that point, like your hangover cure or hangover food or anything along those lines. Like
it's especially when you get older, it's a whole process.
Mm-hmm.
And drinking water never works.
No.
It always works in the beginning, but then you just have too much fun. Who wants water?
Right, exactly.
So I'd say a hangover cure would be one, just a ibuprofen right when you get up, and then as much Gatorade or electrolyte with water that you can get in you, and then I say you need to go out instantly and eat and have a drink as soon as possible. If you want to go bougie, one of my favorite places would do fresh pressed carrot juice and champagne.
Okay.
A nice brunch with a couple of those makes you feel right. But I'd say just try to get a cider with ice as soon as possible. or what, I would say there's so many. We've been in the industry so long. A Radler, get a Radler. Radler is a German style summer beer, really low ABV and kind of citrusy grapefruit beer soda water would be my explanation. So a proper Radler. And then what you do with a Radler, add a shot of tequila in it, and you're right as rain. So there's a lot of things you can do.
All right. Those are two new ones. Like the champagne and carrot juice sounds amazing. Like that.
I say just do it in order. Do the carrot juice, champagne, move it on to a cider with ice, and then end it with a Radler with a shot of good tequila.
All right.
Yeah. And just start that cycle again. All right, you ready for the next?
Yeah, what are we drinking?
Okay, so it's going to be a two-fa.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to pour our Town Branch rye.
Okay.
And just, single pour.
You say that, but I'm a terrible barman. Like, I'm good at the other side of the bar. You say single pour, and I'm like, oh, I have a heavy hand, 1001, 1002.
Now, what we're going to be doing is something that I learned from our master distiller. And, I guess, call it a beer chaser, call it whatever you want. But what we're going to do is we're going to do a Kentucky Chew. And then we're going to chase it with the vanilla barrel cream ale. So this is a cream ale that we're brewing with vanilla beans and aging in those same bourbon barrels.
He told you, terrible barman. Look at that. Terrible.
I'll be honest with you. That's to a lot of people, that's a proper pour to get that heavy head, to get all that aroma. With certain beers, it's a really good feeling to get a big heavy foamy sip.
All right.
So
I'm not terrible at everything.
Depends on the beer too.
Yeah.
All right. How much head that you want on it. So are you familiar with the Kentucky Chew?
I am not.
Is a sip of any whiskey, bourbon, or rye.
Okay.
So you're just going to take a sip, and very slowly, very gently, you're just going to kind of move and roll and kind of chew that whiskey.
Okay.
We're going to do it for about 20 seconds. We're going to enjoy and swallow that rye after about 20 seconds, and then we're going to finish it with a chaser, which is the vanilla. And that's going to open up flavors that you've never experienced before.
Excellent. Well, and again, I've never had that beer before, and I've only had 3 beers I've had multiple beers, but so far I've only had 2 that I really like. So I'm looking forward to this. Cheers, my friend.
Cheers.
Ooh.
It's like butter.
Oh, that is good.
You get, our rye is a rye.
Yeah.
This is 100 proof. If you're drinking the rye for the first time, you get these amazing floral notes. But then the tasting notes, dry pepper, spice, but still a nice kind of sweet balance. We never do anything too strong. But you do that Kentucky Chew, and you roll that around for almost 20 seconds, and it just opens up your pores in your tongue. Yeah. And it just opens up all that. And when you finish it with the vanilla, and it just seeps in, it just turns into the most creamy vanilla butter thing you've ever had in your life.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was amazing. So, okay. All right. So, question 3.
Question 3.
Where's the bow tie obsession come from?
I've had a lot of apparel obsessions. Hats were a big one. When I lived in, not just, before I left for China, I probably had 80 hats. I just had an obsession with hats. And then when I left, and later on with my bartending, F&B career, I got into, mixology. and I got into aprons and all those things, very early on, and bow ties were a big thing. And for me, anytime I buy one of something, it turns into 80.
I hear you.
And bow ties were a big obsession. They still are. I believe now quality over quantity.
Okay.
In the past, it was quantity over quality. and it was funny because nobody was wearing bow ties,
No.
and I didn't find out until after taking the job with Lexington Brewing Distilling that Pierce wore bow ties, our founder. And I remember the first time that I came to Kentucky and I just took the job, and they brought me over. And every May is a huge event, the big craft beer festival and big event with other things going on. And I see Pierce, and I'm wearing a dope bow tie. And because Pierce always wears a bow tie. And I'm like, Pierce is like the only guy that I know that wears a bow tie. And I'm talking with some people, but I'm eyeing him. I'm waiting to talk to Pierce. He's 10 feet away. And finally, he catches my eye. I go over, hey, how you doing? I'm Dave Bob. I just started. I'm heading beverage in Taiwan. And, we talk for a few minutes and everything. And then he goes off, he does his thing. An hour or so goes later, he's announcing awards for the craft beer judging, gold, silver, bronze, who's winning for that year's best beer with all the invitationals that we had. We ran the biggest craft beer festival in Kentucky, if not, around the South during that time, big names like, Founders and Dogfish Head and Sweetwater to smaller names. So a huge, huge beer festival. So he's on stage, he wants to announce the winners, but he's got to gather, 2,000 people or so towards the stage. I happen just to be by the stage talking to some people. And he goes, well, our first award, we're going to announce is not a beer award. And that award goes to the best bow tie. And he points at me, has me come on stage. We do like the presidential handshake.
There you go.
Reaches in his pocket, gives me $100. But yeah, it was. I've always had an accessory, even to the apron.
Yeah.
This was my leaving China or leaving Asia kind of memorabilia. I was right before Kentucky. I went to Shanghai, but I traveled all over China. I took over doing essentially master classes all over China. I was traveling so much. It was awesome. Little did I know it was like a going away tour that
Sure.
I had no idea. And there's this guy, Jimmy, in Shanghai, and amazing artist, amazing seamstress, and he's really, at that time, he was the only custom apron game in town. Every major brand, he made it. didn't matter how big or small, Diageo and all the spirit companies, everybody, he was making their custom aprons. So he was super nice and very kind to me, and was able to carve out some time, and he allowed me to come in probably 3 times, and I handpicked the material. And you can draw a lot better than me. I drew some really crappy freaking lines, and he made this apron for me.
That's awesome.
I got all my goodies in here, including his little logo.
Oh, very nice.
Hand stamped. And so he made this for me right before I left, and I had him. It was so funny. I had him sign the inside of the apron, and he was very happy about that.
Question 4, drink.
So for the guy that loves whiskey and doesn't enjoy beer, I got you a hard tea that's aged in bourbon barrels.
Excellent.
I'd like to say you have a much better ice than I do.
I am a giant ice snob, so
I used to be, and then with a lot of things, I just that's a response. Unless I go to a certain place. If I go to a certain place and they should have ice like they should.
Yep.
If I'm going to a hotel and you're a hotel that's saying that you're doing craft cocktails and you're boutique or etc., and you're using chip ice that I can get in my fridge,
right,
we got a problem.
Totally.
It's so funny, the persona and the art and the apprenticeship of a really proper cocktail bar.
Yeah.
Mix all, there's certain words that are perfect words.
Cocktail bar works. Yeah.
But yeah, learning, I remember when I first saw and then was able to very poorly learn how to make my own ice ball.
There you go.
And I mean, that's worth a lot.
Yeah.
And just especially going in early and just having friends that, work at top 50, top 100.
Yeah.
Whether it's top 50 Asia or top 100 world, and having friends and seeing them go like with a saw, because the first thing I think is, Uno from Japan.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who I was very fortunate to spend time with on multiple occasions and stuff like that, and seeing prep work before demos. Yeah. It's so funny.
he is one of the guys that I truly just admire. So he is just.
I'll tell you right now, his internet persona is much more than his real life persona.
Oh, I'm sure
that he's a joker.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
And it's so funny. I think that's what I miss most about being. Being in bigger cities where, more people are coming in, and just all those guest bartenders, it's just so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Because really, demo with the industry, pros and cons, especially, you have somebody come in, and if it's just a paparazzi, not so much fun. But if it's genuine and you're able to get that seat at the bar, it's better than Broadway. Okay, so we're drinking that bourbon barrel aged hard tea.
It's good. All right, question 4, which I feel that we kind of got across it multiple times, but as a world traveler and a guy that actually has lived and bartended and traveled, what is your favorite city to drink in and why?
Oh gosh. Let's see here. Okay. Well, I mean, multiple cities. One, Moscow or St. Petersburg, Russia, because when you order vodka, they bring it in a carafe.
Okay.
And
Nice.
it's not, it's not a, a decoration thing, and it's not a, a gimmick. It's the vessel that will hold the most vodka that you need. And it doesn't matter where you go, there's going to be a carafe of vodka. I don't care how fancy or divey it is.
Yeah, you always have a carafe of vodka. All right, excellent.
But I would say St. Petersburg. It's such a beautiful city, and it's so funny when I lived there for over a year. Last year I was there twice in 1 year, and it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world, and it's a European city, even though it's Mother Russia. So for such a gorgeous, beautiful city, that kind of European beauty, at the same time of having that Russian essence to it. And my favorite thing about Russians are they'll never smile. When I first lived in Russia, everything, it felt like a movie to me. I moved there and it was the middle of winter, and we lived right on a canal in one of the oldest wooden bridges in the city, and I would just walk around smiling. And my wife had to tell me, it's like, you need to stop smiling. It's like, why? Well, people think something's wrong with you.
Well, we just have one left, so
Yep.
What's our last and final drink?
Last one, and like I said, when I'm drinking, I always end with a gin and tonic.
All right.
We're gonna do our Halfpenny Rhubarb Gin from Ireland, and Fever Tree Tonic. It was funny when I first started using rhubarb shrub, and then I think a year later or so, they put out the Halfpenny Rhubarb, and not that I would never use a rhubarb shrub, you can't compare, but I was like, thank goodness, because I've never even, me as a bartender, I'd never seen a pink rhubarb gin.
Yeah, me.
I'm like, this is amazing. I'm giddy. All right.
Okay, so question 5 comes down to our Whiskey Wednesday coin. The coin. Oh, first let's cheers. Yes, sorry
Cheers.
about that. That was a terrible. My point. Yeah. Cheers.
What? How did you make your drink?
I have this, and then I just have the tonic. So I thought you said a grapefruit tonic, which turned it even more red.
Oh, nice. Yeah, it's super ruby.
Yeah, I was just like.
But at least you get that explosion of color, and yeah, I appreciate it.
And my bodega did not have lemons or limes today, so I
forgot that you lived in Brooklyn, bro.
But all right, so question 5, flip of the coin. The coin tells us the answer. So you can flip it, you can spin it, you can do whatever you want.
Okay.
All right. So question 5: do you pay the Russian cops that have pulled you over for running the stop sign, even though you have not run the stop sign?
I'm like, how many people have I told this story to?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, and that's what it said.
All right.
Do you want me to tell you that story?
I mean, yes, I would love for you to tell me this story. But yeah, that is.
So this was in our neighborhood. We lived there. My wife grew up there. This is where she grew up. And right around the corner, on a little connecting the side street that goes over the canal, and you have to take a right to go onto the main street. It's a one-way road. They snuck a stop sign in between. So now there's 2 stop signs. Okay? And there's never been a stop sign Even I lived there long enough to know there's no stop sign. And call it the end of the month or call it close to a holiday, but they wanted that extra coin. And yeah, our friend was driving. She's familiar with our neighborhood, and takes a right. We get lit up. Within, a half a second, we get lit up. They were right there, pulled over. He comes over. You ran the stop sign. Like, what stop sign? That stop sign. You mean the one like up in a, basically up in a tree? And he's like, yeah. And he instantly takes out a book, and he points to it. This much. So we're all opening up our wallets, taking out the money. It wasn't a lot, but it was definitely annoying. It was more than you should have.
Sure.
It was, if you're only one person, you would go to the ATM. So, those are the adventures of traveling. Those are the little nicks. It was so funny. All of our fans and viewers and everybody who's a little bit older, if you can remember traveling with, no 4G, no Google Maps. Remember MapQuest where it would print you something?
Yeah, and you
don't
print
know
it out.
what's going to take you. And in the kind of same thing, the internet wasn't the internet that we have today.
Sure.
It was dial-up. So yeah, all those, they just make, fun stories and make you not react to things that, when you meet people that react really quickly, you can tell, like, you haven't been in as many situations that I've been in, because you wouldn't react that quickly if you were.
Right. You'd be like, oh, this is norm. So, all right, yeah, what do I got to do? Like,
oh, that's not bad. Whatever you just did or said,
yeah,
I've dealt with way worse than that.
Yeah, way worse. Like, I've had to go to the ATM. Like, the cops have taken me to the ATM. So, yeah.
And that's a baby story compared to other things.
Oh, I don't want to keep you. I really do appreciate your time. We are now best friends for life. So,
BFF.
Hopefully you will be in New York very time soon, or I'll be in Kentucky, and I would love to come to Kentucky like that.
Well, yeah. Well, I know you'll be busy when you do, but you got to come to Lexington no matter what.
Yeah.
So we got you.
Yeah. No, and honestly, like, it's no bullshit. Like, I absolutely love the bourbon and rye. So
Yeah,
that will be a spot.